Hey, welcome back to the food forest. I promised a part 3 tour of going around and checking out the pond and see what we can find out there for creatures and frogs and all that sort of stuff and food that we have growing in and around our pond system. And I'm going to make good on that promise now. Been a little busy with work and other extracurricular activities that we have been enjoying as a family. But let's get back into the gardens and see what we have growing. And we got some helpers with us today. It's our two Aussie shepherds. This is one of our deer solutions here. And they love the pond. They keep the rabbits and the deer away from all the food. And they snack on all of the different things that we have planted in and around the food forest. For example, we've got some hascaps here right next to us, and I did notice Rosie eating most of our hascaps this year. This is a kiwi plant, so this is cold hardy kiwi, and it is growing up next to the pond. No kiwi on this fruit or on this vine yet, but we do have some by the chickens. And the main thing with the pond is that we're using the pond as a pollination, beneficial insect attractor. So our main food forest is here just north of the pond, and this is where we grow most of our fruit. Our annual gardens are behind us in the backyard in the south, and it's really important to have nature habitat in areas that are adjacent to your properties, are integrated into your food forest production systems, your food production systems. And it's really important to have that kind of beneficial insect attractors in and around your food production trees. This is a Cinema triloba. This is a pawpaw. It is one of North America's oldest fruit. And this one is just coming into production now. And we've got a couple up here. It looks, a little wild and crazy, but there's, Queen Anne's lace. I have videos on how to identify Queen Anne's lace versus other plants. It might be a little dangerous to have around. You're looking for a little speckle in the middle. That's the pin drop of blood of Queen Anne. You've got the understory, or underneath, you've got these little spikes. That is very important because Queen Anne's lace has pikemen that protect her. And then you've got hairy stems. And that is, Queen Anne had hairy legs. So if you got those three things, those are little little ways to remember those three identifying features. Then you know that you've got Queen Anne's lace and you don't have, maybe hogweed or some of the other plants that can be a little dangerous in the same family. And one of the nice things about Queen Anne's lace is it's a it's a host plant for a tremendous amount of different native insects in and around our area, as is chicory. So chicory is a fantastic plant for attracting beneficial insects. Right now, actually, I think it must bloom and then close up its flowers, because just this morning it was all flowers. And it was, when I saw that, I thought, oh, I better get out to the pond and film it. So it must close up the flowers in the end of the day. One of the things I like about the design of the pond, sorry, just taking a step back here, is what I really want to get in terms of an aesthetic is feeling like your sight lines are limited. So I don't go too far before I twist and turn a path. And I really want to have that constrained view in front of you so that you're forced to look at the things around you. I feel in systems where you can really see far, say you have big long laneways of plants, you don't take the time to stop and appreciate everything that's around you. So I really like to limit that visual appeal. So, right at the end of a pathway, I've got a pawpaw, I've got a butternut tree here in behind there, growing up over top of the sumac as an overstory plant. And I don't think I have any butternuts yet. But I have got these winding pathways. So we wind down this hill. At this point here, we can turn down into the swale that goes to apple trees, and you know, tons and tons of different bushes like elderberries and currants and haskaps. But you're stopping in and around and you're checking out this butternut tree, or at least will be in the future when it's putting on fruit, which it's not yet. Most nut trees you're looking at a good 10 years, sometimes 15. And then same idea here, we've got a winding path, and then you kind of stop and you're looking at serviceberry underneath the canopy of these sumacs, which I'll probably cut back to give light to the serviceberry soon. You've got another pawpaw here, the third pawpaw or fourth pawpaw that we've run into. You've got a peach tree and a seabuckthorn right at the corner, and then you hit the pond and the wetland filter, and you can kind of have a look out for different creatures, and then you turn and head towards another path, and at the end of that path there's a cranberry coming out right here, and you've got a plum tree, and then you've got a serviceberry, which you stop and then you hit and turn. So I really like that kind of design aesthetic. And this is the wetland filter, so this is the input of the water. You can see that there's movement. Tons of frogs are usually in here. Let's try to step around and not disturb them too much, but I wouldn't mind seeing them. We've got some frogs in there. So lots of habitat for animals. If you're ever building a pond system and you've got a good population of frogs, that's a very, very good indicator of water health. Frogs are very fragile, and if you've got very, very nice populations of frogs, then you know that your water is aerobic. You know you've got no toxic chemical pollutants in it, because the frogs will be the first thing to go. Now it looks like this is just still water, and it's not actually. And also, if you see some decaying matter in there, that's on purpose. I want to get a little bit more carbonic acid into the pond here, because we've got a limestone rock that we use for our ponds, and that will bleach in calcium carbonate. Man, it is just full activity in here. Yeah, so we got calcium carbonate coming into the water, raising the pH. So we do want to get a little bit of carbon dioxide and decomposition happening in the pond in order to offset that. And it looks like it's calm water, but this is actually the input for the pond. The main flow in through the pond comes up into here. It's just diffused. So there's a giant diffuser in the bottom of this, which is just a big long pipe with open holes. And then the water spreads out as it comes out of the discharge of the main pond pumps. And then it just overflows over this sill. So there's a very gentle overflow here, and you can kind of see the water trickling out. And that is just like a little walking step that I can use to get over to the other side, and then also get in here and clean out some of the algae that might come. But overall, it's been really naturalizing itself, this pond. We've got irises in here because it's one of the things that can grow in a basic, alkaline water source. And then we've got some trees planted to kind of grow out over the pond, this is some more serviceberries here. And we've got some more in there that's being kind of a little bit covered by the goldenrod, which is another fantastic insect attracting plant. But you get rewarded for planting some of these insect attracting plants, because it's just so fun to come out here and see what's growing. So we've got a cranberry here. This is a high bush cranberry that's growing at the side of the path. This is the entrance into another swale, and we've got some staghorn sumac. This is not tree of heaven. Staghorn sumac here. It's a fantastic food for the bees. It's edible as well. The flowers are edible as almost like a berry. And then we come out to this plum, and the plum is loaded up. Lots of fruit this year, and not too much pest issues. We've got the odd one that something's obviously gotten into, because it's ripening so much faster than everything else. So there's something that would have bored a hole in there and is causing that to accelerate. But there's quite a few plums on this tree, so nice, excited to eat those. We've got oregano at the base of this. We've got yarrow at the base of this. This is what this is here. I can collect the seed and I can spread it everywhere. This is it here as well. Yarrow is a natural mosquito repellent, and it's also a very, very potent herbal tea. So nice, preventative health for making yarrow tea. We've got oregano all over the place. And other than that, we've got some things that we can eat, like the daylilies here. You can eat the flowers, and you can eat the seed pods. The seed pods are kind of like a little spicy mustard taste. And we do have our invasives. This is dog strangling vine, which I pull out whenever we find it, and hopefully get it before it goes to seed, and just throw it down on the ground to build soil. So I don't go out and take the weeds out and burn them or anything. I just chop them and drop them right down. They'll decompose and turn into more soil. Here's some yarrow flowers from some yarrow that we've planted around. It's just everywhere. Got some oregano in here, some ostrich fern. These are the daylilies. So lots of edibles. It looks like kind of flower chaos, but tons and tons of edibles. And then even in our grounds story, we've got creeping thyme, which is medicinal as well, and very, very much a beneficial insect attracting plant as well. Here is the baby service berry that I was talking about, Amelanchier alnifolia. So that's growing right in and around next to the pond. We got some more in here somewhere, and it's kind of being covered up. There's another one right here. So I just kind of watch this, make sure that this goldenrod isn't smothering it too much. It's getting enough light. And it's okay if younger trees get a little bit of a shade, because that's what happens in nature. The young trees get shaded, and it kind of acts as like a nursery for them for growing. They don't want full sunlight, because that's not what they grow in the forest. You know, they grow under the overstory of another tree in the forest. So we've got seabuckthorn, which is one of the healthiest berries on the planet. That's kind of forming a little wall in the front. This is a really, really nice canadensis alnifolia. Not alnifolia. And then here is the overstory. We've got a Amelanchier canadensis, which is a wild, more of a wildlife version of the serviceberry tree. It's got slightly smaller berries, but the birds like it a little bit more. We've got more cranberries here. You can see lots of flowers in here, like wild sweet William flowers. We've got geraniums in here. We've got wild ginger. We've got bergamot. And then we've got, these are some of the seabuckthorn berries. This one is just coming into ripeness. This is one of the most dense, nutritious foods on the planet. I've got a video on this specific plant. What's the healthiest food in the world, I think the video is called. And it's this plant here. It's literally like eating medicine when you come out to your lawn. And it's a bit of a tart berry. It's a little sour, but because you know it's so healthy for you, it actually has a real nice flavor when you kind of taste it. Okay, popping down here. This is the stream outlet of the pond. Actually, let me just pop up here and I'll show you where that starts. So the idea with the pond is that you want to have your outflow and inflow in completely opposite ends of the pond. So we've got our waterfall over there, and then we've got our main pond body here, and then right down in the backside at the end there we've got the main outflow. So let me just actually pop through and show you that. Okay, so you can see I've set up a little board there to go harvest some of the serviceberries. The main waterfall is here, And this is the one side of the pond. And then we've got flow straight across the pond. And then at the opposite side, you've got the low edge. So that low edge will pull everything over to it, and it'll act as a bit of a skimmer. And it'll pull debris over, and then that'll get stuck in the waterfall area. So I'll head back over there and kind of show you that. I'll just try to quickly go over. Got butterflies falling out, jumping out all over around me. Alright, so now we're down here, and this comes out all over here. It'll eventually come out here, tumble down more waterfalls, and head down into these rocks. This is an underground reservoir where the pumps will take suction out of. And I'll just pop over through here. And you can see here, this is just a winding stream with a friend in it. So it's just a nice winding stream. And we try to mimic habitat anywhere we can, you know, with old logs, little nooks and crannies for frogs to hang out in, find shelter, and we try to wind it kind of like a natural stream would wind. And I will just hop over here. And I've been leaving all this goldenrod up. Usually I have a bit of a more of a walking path through here. And this is just another waterfall. So you want to have lots of oxygenation zones, lots of little tumbling areas, lots of little pooling crevices. So we kind of put in this little pooling crevice in the side. And this is where a lot of wildlife likes to sit. Right where there's a ton of water with oxygen in it, and then they can kind of hide in protected areas. So believe it or not, you know, all of these aspects were thoroughly thought of in the design of this pond. This is the main outflow of the pond. So a huge tumbling area, a huge oxygenation zone, and then all these little nooks and crevices in the rocks for stuff to kind of find somewhere to live and hide. I will leave some leaves in areas where it's not bothering anyone, because this is nesting sites for various insects. This is fantastic habitat for many beings. And then, yep, this is the stream that just continues onwards. Okay, so I'll head down to the overall pond sump. All right. Oh, that frog's going for a ride. Where did he end up? Okay, so let's head down there, but we're gonna take the pathway, you know, quote unquote pathway, and actually stopping on the way. This is St. John's wort. It's an extremely medicinal plant, very, very useful pollinator attractor, and extremely cold hardy. So a very, very useful plant if you are in a cold climate. And you can see here we've got a pawpaw that some wild sweet williams is kind of starting to shade a bit, so we want to get that some more light. That pawpaw will climb up and become overstory. And then this is just continuation of the pathway, and tons of wildflowers, which we leave up as much as possible until we get visitors who maybe don't want to walk through such a jungle. But you know, this is really, it looks crazy and wild, but this is what real soil building comes from. Just tons of plants, maximizing the amount of plants that you have performing photosynthesis. This is Wildflower Hill. We've got a sumac tree growing right in the middle of it. We've got more seabuckthorn And then this is the main pond pumps. So this here is about, I think it's 7 feet deep, maybe 10 feet deep. And it's, what, 10 feet by 8 feet grid. And this has something called aqua blocks on it. And they're basically like those plastic milk crates piled up on top of each other just to create volume, but empty space. And then you fill the top of it with these rocks. The water can kind of come down. There's a pond liner that comes right across here and then stops. And then at one point it'll stop and the water will actually fall down and trickle through down into the sump. So you can see the pond liner here. This is where it stops, and then the water can trickle down into these crates. So this is the main output of the water, and then it'll come down, and we've got pond pumps here, drawing suction. Make sure I don't drop my phone down there, I'll never get it back. So drawing suction for the pond, this pushes up into the bottom of the wetland filter and it pushes up into the top waterfall. And that's essentially the closed loop. So this is a closed loop, man-made pond, built to look as natural as possible. And I kind of take it the extra step by really letting it go a little bit wild. You know, half laziness, half intentional, but you know, really with a purpose behind it. We've got a really beautiful elderberry here putting on some berries. They won't be ready yet, so these will turn a nice dark purple, and if I get any, the birds do like them, so if I get any, then I can make really healthy syrups and jams out of that. And then this heads back down into the lower Old Man Walking Trail. And this is an emergency overflow right here. I did plant some trees next to it. So you can see I've got a pipe coming out of here. So I've got a pipe here, and then that goes into this, this sump area. So if for some reason we ever get so much rainfall, it'll all collect down in here. It'll concentrate down in here. And if the water level ever gets high enough, we've got a connection point in here into that overflow. Can you see it? Yeah, okay, there. So if it ever gets high enough where it can't flow down into the grate, then it'll flow down here, and then that comes out eventually into that overflow pipe, and then that'll just go down the, it's got a pond liner on it so that we don't get erosion, because it's going to be going straight downhill. So I would cut right into the hill if I didn't have a pond liner. So pond liner and rock, and then that'll just flood out the lower area, but that water will then spread out a little bit instead of concentrating and blowing out my hill, and then, you know, potentially washing out some of this rock. If I eventually lose enough hill, you know, the front edge of this will fall off, and, you know, who knows. So it's always really important to design in backups and emergencies into your pond designs. So then this goes to the lower Old Man Walking Trail, which I've shown many times before, and I showed on the other tours. And the pawpaws are all back in there, and it's actually looking really nice with the, just with the setting sun coming through. So really, really nice. And that's pretty much the pond setup. So it's just, the pond is almost, I think of it like the beating heart of my food forest. When I first started this and I didn't have any water systems, I had fruit trees and I had gardens, but I was missing, you know, half of the diversity that I could get by planting water and getting water-based insects. I like the grass, eh? She was eating raspberries earlier. Getting water-based insects, getting a real diverse set of wildflowers in an area that I could really just let naturalize, and then let, you know, the ecosystem, ecological transition of a space take over, you know, an area where I could be the initial designer of the space, but then I can pull back and kind of let nature continue the plan, and I can just then, you know, monitor the plan. I can look for invasives like the dog strangling vine. I can look for general plant health, and for an area that I don't water, that I don't take care of at all, the vibrancy of plants is just absolutely outstanding. A lot of people will say that you have to, you know, keep competition down around plants, and it's really not true. The peaches are doing so fantastic. The pawpaws are doing fantastic. You get a little bit of eating on the leaves, but I've talked about this before. This is something I love to see, because something was eating this and then something ate that. And if I can naturalize the predators of the pests, then I can break pest cycles as they emerge. So if I don't have a system like this, and I get a predator, a caterpillar or something, you know, eating some of my leaves, and I don't have those predators naturalized on my land, then they take down the whole tree. Here, this thing had a day or two of eating before something got it, and that's what you want. So if you don't ever plant and leaf plants up to bring in predators, then you'll never get that natural resiliency that naturalized insect predators on your property will give you. It's so super critical. And then this is the main food forest strip, and you can see, you know, I'm not like a lot of people immaculately cutting their lawns. You know, my son is tasked to cut the front grass, because if I did this everywhere, my wife would absolutely lose her mind, and rightly so. But I get my playground, and my playground is on this side of the lawn, and my playground is wild and super vibrant and healthy, and we're pulling in tons of fruit. Because of our methods, we don't lose fruit to pests in the way that a lot of people around here do. Around here, there's a really big issue with plum curculio. They get in all the peaches, they get in all the apples, and almost no fruit is edible at the end of the season. And the only way to combat that is to spray. Instead, you know, I got the odd insect landing on my fruit, but it doesn't have much of a lifespan. That insect is under extreme predator pressure, and you know, I get all the food I could ever want. Actually, where's all my pears? I feel like I don't have that many pears this year. Where are they all? That's interesting. We got a ton of water lately, and I wonder if the tree has been pushing out the pears. Some of them, when you see stuff like this, it can be, you know, poor pollination. So this could be a sign of poor pollination that I'll have to keep my eyes on. So I'll have to just, you know, double check what kind of things will pollinate pears, and work even harder to bring more of them in. We do have pears up there, but normally this tree is just so absolutely loaded. Could just be taking a year off, who knows. But thanks for watching. I did a big tour of this rest of the food forest area, and you know, it's a little wild and crazy, and I showed that on the other one. One thing I did want to show was actually the kiwi. Just on the way, we've got some persimmons coming, so that's kind of fun and exciting. So not too many, but persimmon is really a tree that I'm pushing zone on. There's another couple in here, but persimmon is a tree that I'm really pushing zone on. So seeing it not only survive a couple winters now, but also starting to fruit is super exciting. Okay, let's head to the kiwi. Okay, so kiwi loves fertility. Chickens are fertility. So planting kiwis near chickens and animal systems is a great plan. This is an arbor that I built a few years ago, and I wanted to tie it up and strengthen it with some vines. and kiwi's a great option for this. It can also be devastating if you allow it to go too long, but this is cold hardy kiwi. So this is not the typical kiwi you'd find in a grocery store. It's more like grapes, but inside, like, these will actually look like kiwi and taste like kiwi. Apparently, I've never actually had one. But I wanted to grow this because it's cold hardy and it's fun to tell people you grow kiwi in Canada. So tons of kiwi coming this year. Really excited to try these out. And this is a plant that grows really, really well. Infertility, it can be very difficult to grow. So if you've got a really fertile area, then it can be really, really rampant to the point it can take structures down. But I can always cut this ground level. I can let it grow and stitch together, you know, an arbor and strengthen it with its wood, and then I can cut it ground level and kind of take the additional weight off it, because it won't grow up there anymore and it'll kind of grow down from the bottom. Kiwi's a plant that you're going to really want to have to monitor and manage and grow it up a strong scaffold. We've got some Carpathian walnuts there that are going to grow tall, and I have to make sure that this kiwi doesn't strangle it in the meantime. But once it gets high, then it'll be the new trellis for the kiwi in future years, hopefully. So that's the kiwi, and it's just doing fantastic, integrated into animal systems. And this is you know, tons of raspberries, so we couldn't get to all of them. We're desperately picking them, and now this all goes to chicken food if it's beyond ripe. And Rosie's been nibbling on the edges of this raspberry guild, and she's over there looking for more raspberries as well. So really fun life they have, kind of hunting around and finding food that they can eat. She must be in there all the time eating the raspberries in that patch. So yeah, that's the kiwi. Anyway, I think that's long enough. I've just kind of been wandering around showing you stuff, but I hope you enjoyed the pond tour, seeing different herbs and flowers that I plant in cold climates, and more so the philosophy of allowing, you know, more than just fruit plants to enter into your food forest. Definitely think about bringing in insect predators, pollinators, and providing a little food to nature and letting nature thrive in and amongst your human design systems. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.